True love does not need rules. True love does not need laws. And we see this comparison in the readings today. The first reading from Sirach, he's pretty much talking about the law, and you have to obey the law, and you have to keep the commandments, and do everything so that you're in right order with God. Paul's letter to the Corinthians goes from a different angle and says true wisdom means you don't really need the law anymore. St. Paul will go on to call the law a pedagogue, or a babysitter. He'll say if we have life in Christ, if we are living that wisdom, then we don't need the law, because we're living as Christ would have us live. So true love needs no laws. And I'm not speaking of this because we just celebrated Valentine's Day this week. You know, most priests don't celebrate Valentine's Day. Just saying, just throwing that out there. I get a Valentine from my mama every year. That's about it. But when we talk about true love wants for the beloved. True love is devoted to the beloved. And so then we get to the gospel, and we're a little confused, because it seems that Jesus is saying he's not going to change the letter of the law, and then he goes forward and says, but I say to you. They're called the six antitheses. He's saying, it has been said, so this is the law, but I say to you. And he assures us right at the beginning, I'm not here to change the law. What I'm here is to fulfill what is the spirit of the law in the first place. The whole reason why we have the law in the first place. Now, I have to empathize with the Pharisees and scribes he's speaking of a little bit. Because you have to realize the people that they're dealing with, the Jews at that time, many of them were minimalists. And so if the Pharisees or scribes would say, this is the law, they would think to themselves, where's the loophole? Or how can we get around it? I'm glad we don't have any Catholics like that. No minimalists who will say, okay, that's the law, now how can we skirt around this law? So the Pharisees are trying to fight this, and then lo and behold comes this prophet, everyone is saying might be the Messiah, and now he's telling the people, yeah, you don't have to listen to all the little details and stuff. So I do empathize with them, but they're missing the point. And the point is, the spirit of the law is to create a lover of God. That's the spirit of the law. It's just as St. Paul calls it, the pedagogue, the babysitter. It's kind of keeping us on the right track. Recently, Pope Francis made a statement, and of course it made headlines, like they do. And his statement, which was the headline, was, Pope Francis tells people, don't come to Mass. Have you ever heard a pope say that before? Don't come to Mass. But it really is enticing to read this article, whether you're Catholic or not, because if you read that your Holy Father has said don't come to Mass, and you're a minimalist, then you're going to look for every excuse not to. So if you read the article, what he says is this: many people don't come to the church because they say the church is full of hypocrites. And they don't want to be a hypocrite, so they don't come to the church. Well, it's true. The church is filled with hypocrites. It is. The Greek word hypokritoi means like the actors on stage who wear a mask. We're all hypocrites because we're sinners. So let's agree on that, but we're here. The worst hypocrites are the ones who are not coming. So the Pope essentially says, if you are not in need of God's grace, if you do not need the divine physician who came for sinners, not for the righteous, then don't come to Mass. You have no need to, because your righteousness, as the Gospel says, exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees. In fact, you are pretty much divine at that point. If you do not need Jesus, if you do not need the divine physician, if you don't need grace, then don't come to Mass. That's what the Holy Father is saying. And it makes sense. So which of us does not need grace? Which of us does not need the divine physician? Sometimes we can get so focused on the rules that we forget the reason. And it's one thing to know all the rules. It's another thing, quite different, to live our life in a way that we do not need them.